Imagine being 8 years old and deciding life isn't worth living. Now imagine having no arms or legs to even end it. That was Mick's world. Mick Vujicic was born in Melbourne with tetra amelia syndrome. No arms, no legs. Just a small foot with 2 toes. School turned brutal fast. Kids laughed. Teachers pitied him. Silence became his routine. He learned to write using his 2 toes and a special device that attached to his hip. He learned to throw tennis balls, answer the phone, and even get himself a glass of water. But the emotional toll was immense. By 8, depression hit hard. He felt like a burden to his family and saw no future for himself. At 10, he tried to drown himself in the bathtub. But his love for his parents stopped him. He couldn't bear to leave them with the guilt and pain. That failed attempt shook him, and something cracked open. He realized he had a choice. At 15, something changed. He read a Bible story about a man born blind, and it hit him. Maybe he wasn't a mistake. Maybe he had a purpose. He leaned into faith, then into himself. If he couldn't change his body, he could change his mind. He taught himself to skateboard, then surf. He mastered things people with limbs sometimes struggle with, and he did it anyway with a resilience that was astounding. He graduated from college with a double major in accounting and financial planning. He started to see his difference as power, not a prison. He understood that his story could inspire others. Mick stepped on a stage for the first time, and the room went silent. People didn't see a man without limbs. They saw strength they didn't expect. They saw a joy that defied logic. He built Life Without Limbs, a non-profit organization. He began traveling the world speaking in over 24 countries, reaching millions of people in stadiums, schools, and prisons. His message was simple: find your purpose, never give up. He married the love of his life, Kenne. He became a father to 4 beautiful children. He built a life most people, including himself, said he'd never have. Mick didn't just overcome a disability. He turned it into a weapon for hope. And that changed everything. Now picture this. He had $8 million, power, influence, and he still drank himself to sleep every night. Then he lost it all. Kerry spent 40 years in Arkansas's politics. On the outside, he was the picture of success. Wealthy, popular, always on. But none of it meant anything. He burned through $8 million in just 3 years chasing a feeling, trying to fill an emptiness that money couldn't touch. Every night ended the same way, with a bottle of Jack Daniels and a profound, crushing silence. He was playing a role, the successful politician, but inside he was hollow. The wealth and power were a mask, and behind it, he was disappearing. Then everything cracked. A federal investigation led to a conviction. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. When he walked out, he had nothing, no money, no prestigious title, no mask left to hide behind. He was broke and humbled. One day, he saw a job listing for a position at the Little Rock Compassion Center, a place that helps the homeless. He knew the job was already filled, but some force pulled him there. He went anyway. Pastor Holloway, the director, met him at the door. In that moment, the dam broke. Kerry broke down, crying for the first time since he was a child. He confessed everything: the wasted money, the political lies, the deep, gnawing emptiness he had lived with for decades. The pastor listened, and then he hired him on the spot. That was January 2013. Working with the poor and the homeless transformed him. He saw real kindness, real struggle, real people who had nothing but gave everything. He chose honesty for the first time in his life. Today, he says these are the best years he's ever had. Kerry didn't find treasure when he had millions. He found it when he had nothing left to lose. They lost both their sons within a single year. One to war, one to his own mind. Most parents wouldn't survive that. They chose to make sure other families didn't have to face the same fate. Kevin died first. June 2003. He was a promising ROTC cadet, smart and funny, but he couldn't fight the depression that had taken hold. He was only 21 when he took his own life. Just 8 months later, their other son, Jeffrey, was killed by a roadside bomb while leading his platoon in Iraq. He was a second lieutenant, full of courage and dedication. 2 sons, 2 different battles. Both gone within 12 months. Their father, Mark Graham, was a major general in the U.S. Army, a leader of thousands of soldiers. Yet this unimaginable grief almost destroyed him and his wife, Carol. They could have closed the door on the world. No one would have blamed them. But they didn't. Instead, they asked one powerful question: How do we stop this from happening to someone else? They started the Jeffrey C. and Kevin A. Graham Memorial Fund to support the causes their sons cared about. They pushed for better suicide prevention programs at the University of Kentucky, where Kevin had been a student. They began speaking out, realizing how deep the mental health crisis ran, not just in the military but everywhere. They became champions of QPR training: question, persuade, refer. It's a simple, life-saving method that teaches ordinary people how to recognize the warning signs of a suicide crisis and how to help. They traveled the country, sharing their devastating story with military and civilian audiences, turning their raw grief into a shield for strangers. They refused to let their sons' deaths end in silence. They wanted their legacy to be one of hope and help. Mark and Carol couldn't bring their boys back, but they made sure their boys' lives would lift others forward, saving countless families from the same heartbreak. That isn't just survival, that's transformation. 3 stories. 3 impossible roads. Nick had no limbs, Carrie had no purpose. Mark and Carol had no sons. They were all pushed to the absolute edge of what a person can endure. But they all made the same choice. They refused to let pain write the last line of their story. They took the worst thing that ever happened to them and forged it into something that could help the world. Hope isn't about what you have. It's about what you refuse to give up. It's about finding meaning when everything feels meaningless. If these stories hit you even a little, share them. Someone you know might need to hear this today. And if you want more proof that humanity is stronger than it looks, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.